Hello, everybody. Welcome to Onion Soup, the show where we pull back the layers of metaphysics and reality in order to demystify spirituality. Today, we have with us the mystic, Miss Jeannine Kim. How are you doing today?
Doing wonderful. Thank you, Dexter, for having me. Yep.
Thank you for coming, God. I'm so excited to talk to you because I was actually looking at your extensive background in various forms of intuitive healing. You do Reiki, traditional Chinese medicine, and also remote viewing. What has that journey been like for you?
Woo! It's been an interesting one, let me tell you. I was, I was born that way, dare I say, and in the late 60s, early 70s in the south side of Chicago, like where do you put that information,
Mm,
especially with the Catholic upbringing? And so I just figured everybody was like this, because I mean, it was just being human to me. And later, of course, life taught me that perhaps we all are, but we're not able to share it or be
mm,
aware of it in a real conscious way. So I hid it for many years. But then I let it come back up and out again, and the journey has been um, hard many times because when you kind of sit in a greater truth, it changes your life,
yeah.
but so rewarding. And when you live in that ultimate truth, really, for me, there's no other way to be. And I love sharing that empowerment with people. So,
Oh, wow. I definitely feel that. Yeah. As I started to grow into my own spiritual journey, it's not necessarily hard. I guess it's hard in the sense that learning more and learning to accept myself and to integrate things into my own life. But have you ever found that as you start progressing along your journey, more and more abilities start to develop?
completely. And, so many people, when they'll ask me, well, my gosh, you're this psychic, then, that must be it. Like you reach psychichood or spiritual, and then you don't grow anymore. But the way I love for people to look at that is that it's like a sommelier. Do you know
Mm,
what, like a sommelier is a wine master, right? A
right.
master of the wine. And when he learns how to first learns wine, he knows all the flavors. Like they could drink the wine and they're like, "Yeah, it was
Mhm.
raining in France," and I have no clue. To me, it's like red. Like maybe it's
Right.
white. I don't know. But he's really refining his palate.
Mm,
And is there ever an end to that? Because the more you know, the more refinement comes and you actually get deeper into that work, deeper into your spiritual abilities, deeper into what you can and cannot read or sense.
mm.
So, yeah, it's been a long road of just refinement, but it sounds like the same for you as well.
Oh, for sure. I feel like I'm still just on the beginning of that whole journey. Just
Yes.
like really just starting to accept my, I would say, third eye and crown chakra being open as I learn to balance the rest of them. But seeing things in your mind's eye and not feeling crazy is a whole other thing.
And not feeling crazy. I'll tell, like when I'm teaching intuition, I'll tell my students, if you say, this sounds weird, but, or this may sound crazy, but just know that you are on the right track. Like that's the actual, that's when you know you are accessing your intuitive self. You're behind the
Right.
curtain. So
For sure, because I feel like some of the things that comes through my mind, I'm like, "Okay, I really can't make this up." So
it's, yeah, a lot of it. You blow your own mind daily. I know I do still with my work.
it's so wild. So, as you practice in these various fields of study and intuitively and spiritually, do you have any that you lean more towards?
I do. I lean more towards past lives.
Oh, interesting, why?
They are, for me, they just, you know what? they've come on their own. So here I
Mm,
am, like, I'm a holistic health practitioner, and I am a massage therapist. I taught massage for years. I don't do that now
mhm,
that I have children, but when I started working on people, it would just come. Like I would be working with them, and all of a sudden, I would feel their a past life show up. I would get the visual in their body, or if I'm doing astrology, I see that right away. Or intuition, I get it right away.
mm,
And so it's as if I've been really led to embrace that. And what I have found is that the past lives, they are the roots of where our wounds lie today. Like, I just don't see them to be like, "Oh, cool, I was that in another life." Like,
yeah,
that's fun and everything. But I wanna know why. Why is it showing up now? And so I use it as a healing mechanism to break people from the dynamics that they're in today. It's very powerful.
mm. Interesting. So how exactly by telling someone about their past life trauma, how does that help to uproot the nature of that trauma so they can get on with their lives?
Well, there's a couple ways to look at past lives, and we have many, many, many. But the ones that I ask for are the root cause of that trauma. So where that trauma, dare we say, like first began,
Mhm,
like first began for them in a certain chakra. And so when we uproot that, it's amazing how my clients will say, "Oh my gosh, there's nothing wrong with me today." Like the shame is lifted. Like they're thinking,
mhm,
"Oh my gosh, maybe there's something wrong with me. I'm causing this to happen." And when we see a past life, the invitation there says, "This has been going on for so many lifetimes. You're here now to revisit it,
mm,
get a little whiff of it, right? Or a big one. But
mhm,
you're here because you have more tools that can move beyond it,
mm,
that can go past it." And one other thing I love to say about past lives is that, in our, even just as you and I speak now, we know that humans, they just want to be seen and understood.
yeah,
And most of these past lives, we were going through it. There's
mhm,
no consciousness that could have seen it. And so when I'm able to see that,
mm,
it's like the healing, it's witnesses medicine. The healing happens at the moment that I see it, and it's released, and then how I teach my clients how to work with it after the
wow,
fact. So deep, deep healing. Yeah.
wow. You mentioned how, you oftentimes notice that past life trauma being in a particular chakra. So is
Yes.
that necessarily always the case? And if so, have you noticed certain chakras tend to be more blocked or stagnant than others?
I do. I feel like a majority of the people that come across my path, it's, all of our chakras are open and working all the time. And from what I go for is I ask for the wound from every chakra.
Mm,
Like I want to know. I want to know. So when we unlock the traumas, then we unlock the masteries. And yeah, there are some chakras where it's like, whoa, like,
yeah.
yeah, I go through all seven of them, the main ones, and then I go through Earth Star chakra and the Soul Star chakra. But
Oh,
it's like, whoa, that one chakra was big for you.
mhm,
That one chakra was bigger for you. They're all significant in their flow. So absolutely, I
mhm.
feel it for them quite often. Yeah.
A lot of people don't talk about the Earth Star and the soul chakras. Can you go a little bit more into that for people that might not know what those are?
Absolutely. So I call the Earth Star chakra, it's actually the chakra that, for me, in my perspective, resides below the first. And so
Okay.
it lingers kind of embedded in the earth, if you
Mhm,
will. And I love to call that like Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible. He's that secret spy, and it's that locker at the international airport that has like all its different IDs and the different money and everything. So the Earth Star chakra, like when we land on Earth, boots on the ground, that Earth Star chakra holds for me, it's where they hold the Akashic records. That's where I go to get them. Okay. And then also kind of like our karma and our dharma, what we're here for. Maybe
mhm,
some old tools from some other lifetimes we're gonna be able to use. And then maybe some old situations that we're meant to close up or work on. That's all in that Earth Star chakra. And then the Soul Star chakra, again, is right above that seventh for me,
yeah.
and that is more like the Dharma. where they're going and their greater connection to source that'll keep moving them forward
Mm,
away from that identity.
interesting. I find it really fascinating that recently a lot of people have been coming on the show mentioning the Akashic records. So, and the book I actually have behind me is, Opening the Channel. And, can you just, from your perspective, talk about what the Akashic record is and how you get there?
Right. So the Akashic Records is a database, if you will, if we want to put it in modern terms, a database of all the lifetimes that your soul has had experiences, all the realms, all the lifetimes. And it's almost like a program would do. You complete some cycles and some are open, so then they kind of, it's like the matrix. It kind of forms down to say, okay, what are you going to work on in this life? And
Mm,
so a lot of times I'll go to those Akashic records and they haven't been kept for a bit.
mm,
It's a little messy in there, so we clean house and we move out old soul contracts, right,
mhm,
that maybe just kind of hanging out and lingering. Or and then we also kind of just get it really organized so then they're fresh and stable and their energy can really be focused on what they're moving on, working on moving forward.
hmm. Interesting. I've heard a couple different references when we talk about the Akashic records, and the way that you describe it kind of reminds me of the shaman I was speaking with, and
Mm.
she was talking about how she would go to the underworld, talking about the roots of a tree
Oh
to
yeah.
help people with their
Mhm.
soul contracts.
Yep.
So when we start talking about various soul contracts, and you said that there are some that we don't need, that we need to get rid of, is that what you were referring to as far as old life trauma? Or past
Absolutely.
life
That's exactly it. And I that is very much the root of the tree, and this is why I love going to the past lives because they
trauma?
they are quite literally the roots of our wounding. And some people they could feel so intense, let's say about a situation
Mhm.
or a person in their life, and sometimes they'll feel bad about it. There's all this. We're trying with positive thinking and things
Yeah.
like this, and they're like, I just can't shake it, and I'm like, don't then.
Mhm.
Let's explore it. Go to it because the roots are so deep that we can't just shave it off at the surface. It's like dandelions in the Midwest. You cannot just like lawnmower over them and think they're gone. Like you got to
Right.
you got to dig those puppies up. So you do go to the roots and that's where the real healing lies. Even with the tree, right? If
Mm.
if the tree is something is going on with the leaves, you go to the roots for the health of it. So, yeah, also contracts are in there for sure.
Interesting. So, say when you have these soul contracts with someone, is that soul contract purely with somebody that's in that past life, or is there another individual currently in this life that might have that contract with, and maybe you have an issue with that person?
Oftentimes it could be both. If I'm hearing you correctly, like you could show up with them and be like, "Oh man, I know we've this isn't the first rodeo we've had together." You know what I mean? You're like, "I could feel it, I could tell. I don't know what it is." And the way I love to play with that, Dexter, and tell me if this is where you're going, is that sometimes we feel such a connection with people
Mhm,
that we could tell that they do come from past lives. We could
mhm,
tell the depth of that relationship. But so then what it does then is if things aren't going well, we're like, well, we got to stay with them because we feel the depth of that relationship.
mhm,
But oftentimes that depth is inviting us that if we speak our truth in that moment, and maybe we say no to them, then that truth goes as deep as that person meant for us.
mhm,
And so, yeah, they could play the same role again or another role, but there are certain people that just keep coming around again until we're done.
mm. Wow. So earlier on, when you were first talking about getting in tune with the Akashic records and past lives, you mentioned how you did that during massage therapy, but you don't do that now. So
Right.
how do you currently? What does your practice look like now? Is it something that you intuitively see? Can you see auras in people? How do you get in tune?
Yes, I yeah, that was the way it first came to me a lot. It came to me outside of being hands-on with them.
Mm,
But but I kind of brushed it off like dream stuff. Like, oh, maybe I just had a dream. But I
yeah.
it felt different than a dream, right? You know how those visions feel different than s- but when I put my hands on somebody, then I really knew. But now I just when I'm just intuiting them,
Hmm,
it all just floods in. And every once in a while, I'll be out and about, like my husband and my son and I. We were out, we got massages one day. We were at this beautiful spa in Santa Fe called 10,000 Waves, and we were walking through nature and at a hot tub. And I was so open and just connected to nature.
mm,
And this young woman comes, and we were having a beautiful meal at this restaurant, Izunami. And all I saw on her was a renaissance period. Like, she was beautiful, and I just had to say to her, I'm like, I know that this may seem totally crazy, but you look like, a renaissance painting. Like, I see her
mm,
in the dress. It was just there. And I usually don't do that to people,
yeah.
but it was so loud that she didn't mind that I shared it. But I see it all the time.
Oh, wow. With that being said, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, but
Yes.
I have a question about that. We'll be
Yeah.
right back.
Okay, great.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So, right before we left, you were talking about being able to intuitively get information from people randomly. So, does that mean that you can't necessarily shut this particular gift on and off, or does it just sometimes just show up in spurts?
It's there. It is there, and I really have had to teach myself to have really clear boundaries.
Mm,
And I'm a stickler on that. Like, I don't want to energetically for myself walk around and read everybody,
right.
even though I can. It's just too much. It's like non-local entanglement. Our energy just automatically comes together. But I really turn it off. And it just so I've made that a conscious intention for sure. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I like what you said with non-local entanglement because when we look at the quantum field and quantum field theory, it's all about particles being literally quantumly entangled, and we're all entangled with each other's particulate field. I probably should say particulate, but
Yeah.
within each other's, field, our
Right.
electromagnetic field, which is our aura field or our torus field. But I kind of want to, change directions a little bit,
Sure.
and, I wanted to ask about your studies in traditional Chinese medicine
Mm.
and how that differs from Western medicine.
What I love about traditional Chinese medicine, first of all, it's been around for thousands of years. And so, even like the herbs that they bring forth and their practices, but particularly the herbs as medicine, they would test that for a generation, which was like 50 to 100 years before they shared it with others. Like, the amount of integrity and the artful practice of the medicine was huge. And what I love about it, and what has worked really well for me as an intuitive, is
Mhm,
that it's just a sensitive being, is that they look at all aspects of who you are,
mm,
your spiritual body, your mental body, your emotional body. They see those as what makes the physical body. They
mm,
don't do it the other way around. I mean, they meet the physical because that's like the densest portal of which to really get that that depth healed or
mhm,
aligned. But they meet it all on the energetic level, and they do it in a very holistic way. They'll even
mm,
see relevance in your dreams. I had an amazing acupuncturist in San Diego, Colleen Timmons, for years. I don't know if she's practicing anymore, but she was a teacher at PCOM, and um, she taught me so much. Like, she would ask about my dreams, what was coming up for me in my day. Like, that was
mm,
so important. It was a real deep dive exploration of who you are and using that. as the medicine. One time I had a dream that a snake bit me on the foot, and she's like, "Where? Where?" And then she put a needle there.
Oh.
So she understood that we are all capable of getting these messages and healing ourselves.
Oh, wow. Now, for a lot of us here in the West, we don't know too much about, TCM is the acronym, if people ever come across that. So,
Okay.
a lot of people don't know about traditional Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
So is that the norm that's practiced in different areas of China, or are there integrations with that form of medicine with what we would consider Western medicine?
When you get some people who are really sticking with the traditional, you know what I mean, like the die
Mhm,
hard way, it could be it's all encompassing for them. And when I
mhm,
studied in China, I studied at this school in Beijing, and I studied Tui Na and some traditional Chinese medicine. And they had it was so wild because they had certain parts of the school, which was also like an acupuncture hospital,
mhm,
and they would have certain acupuncturists that worked on the heart, or certain acupuncturists that worked on, the belly, or whatever it was. And um I do feel there's a place for medicine, for Western medicine, but to me it's more in the crisis of
yes,
things, where I love that the Eastern philosophy is how we could be living daily. Food as medicine, like all the super cool diets that are coming out now, and things like this. I love it. I love it because people are talking about it.
mhm,
There's nothing new here. This has
yeah,
been around for thousands of years. Traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine,
mhm, yeah,
it's
I
been there for
100%,
thousands of years.
I 100% agree with you. I think that while, yes, there is a place for Western medicine, I am a big proponent of, treating the root cause and not the symptom.
Yes,
You
that's
know,
exactly it.
that
Mhm.
a lot of times people will instantly run to the ER or to the hospital for a headache when there are other underlying issues to that headache, and
Right.
feel it just puts a Band-Aid on it.
That's it.
But
That's it.
a lot of people are looking for, let's say, alternative medicine as we know it here in the West. Where should someone start? Because for me, I went and did some acupuncture. It was amazing. One of the best things I've ever done. But where
Awesome.
did people start?
Yes, like you did. I love acupuncture, and then I also love a good naturopath,
Oh,
where, it's because the naturopath, at least, the ones that I've been lucky enough to find in my life, is that, find one that is really entrenched in it and uses their work as a hub of understanding. For they'll look at you and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, this is going on. Here's some herbs. Let's try this food. Maybe you need qigong, tai chi, yoga.
mhm,
Hey, go get some acupuncture." Like, they will be able to almost use you as a hub to kind of share, whatever it is that you need with the community around them of healers that they know as well, or Reiki or energy work, whatever it is that you might need, or go to the doctor, like, go get a scan of this, get some blood work done, come on back and let's work on it. So I love naturopaths for sure.
for sure. I 100% agree. I feel like we need a lot more naturopaths here in our country, and I'm hoping that sometime in the future, we have plenty of people, who are practicing in that way.
You are more empowered with your well-being than you know. And so just come back home to yourself. And the more you could come home and trust what comes through you, trust what you need for yourself, especially when you hear that it's weird or crazy, you're on to something new. So don't let that go, and see that power within you. Because I'm just a canary in a coal mine.
Yeah.
We're all like this. We're all finding our way to it for sure.
I love that, I love that. The whole canary in the coal mine idea, like, I love that. And I love how when people who are, one, petitioners also recognize that we're still also on the journey, you know?
Awesome. Yes. I get sick, by the way, and I don't know the lottery numbers. Nope, I don't know. Those are my usual questions.
Right, yeah, because if I knew how to go just pick the lottery, probably would
Yeah.
have. But then I feel like
Mhm.
there's also something, I was meditating about it, this is a while ago, and I was meditating, talking to spirit about it, and it's like, well, that's not what these gifts and abilities are for.
Right.
Yeah,
We're all
and
here to grow. Right.
exactly, and you can't misuse them. It what I was actually
Mhm.
told in one of my meditations was, if you were to do that, it would work for you once, and then you wouldn't have access to the gifts anymore. And
I love that. You know what I'm gonna say to that? It's it's the wizard, not the wand.
right.
It's how you use that gift. And imagine if being a massage therapist, if I'm sitting there, Trader Joe's, and I'm like, look at that guy in front of me. Oh my God, he really needs some work. And then I just drop to the ground and start like working on his calf and don't
Mhm.
even ask him. This is what I tell my students. I'm like, don't use that. I mean, you could use it any way you want. It's your karma and your free will, but
Right.
mm, no, no, no. Like and when you start to heal yourself, you don't even want to go
Mhm.
there. At least
You
I
don't
know I don't. I know I don't. Right? I'm like I'm burning off the karma. I don't need to make any
exactly.
no more karma for me. I'm gonna do my best.
Right, I'm trying so hard to I call it being obedient to spirit and to listen, you know?
Right?
Make sure I'm listening to God in the universe and doing the right thing.
Exactly.
So, I noticed that, like I said earlier, you do or you've done remote viewing before. Can you,
Mhm.
1, tell us what that is for those who don't know, and then let's talk about that.
Absolutely. Remote viewing is fabulous in the sense that it helps you when used properly. There it is again, to kind of break through some of our conditioned beliefs. So, what remote viewing is you take a topic or a person or whatever it is you want to get information on, and you put it inside of, let's say, an envelope,
Mm,
and you write down something random on the outside. It could be a picture, it could be a number, so it's hidden and you don't know what's in there. So, like,
mm,
have somebody else put it in there for you. And then when you pick it up, then it's sealed, and then you read it. You just write down, you begin to write down what you get.
mm,
And I also do this in my work in my private group sessions. It's called a flower reading. So I have my clients
mm,
at a party, they'll bring a flower and they'll put it
right,
at a table, and I don't know whose flower is who, but I pick it up and I just start reading it. And what I love about both of these processes, they're both the same, is that you start to realize our relationship with the energy of something, not the thing of it.
mm,
And you may have like a name of somebody in that envelope. I always love using like movie stars or politicians, like people in the
right,
world, and you have an idea of what it is. And then you start reading it and it's something totally different. Then you open it up and you're like, no, no. And you butt
mm,
up against your conditioning because we have so much projection. But the essence of it is the truth. And so you really kind of have a chance to see it through spirit's eyes that way.
mhm,
Everything has an imprint.
yeah,
Everything is energy first. And so when I read the flower readings, it's no different than seeing their face. And so it teaches my clients that experience that they're like, oh my gosh, she wasn't just reading me and making it up.
right,
She didn't even know who I was, and
mm,
she still saw me. So it sends them on that beginning journey of doing what we do, like really trusting the mystery,
mm,
the mystery of all that is for sure.
yeah. What was that like the first time for you when you decided to do a flower reading?
It was wild. I had it done for me.
Mhm,
My teacher, Dr. Rick Jelusich, he's still out in San Diego now. I
mm,
experienced that in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I was blown away by his work. And so when I started doing it and doing remote viewing, it was refreshing. Like, sometimes I could tell, like you were saying earlier, like we're still working on our stuff. So if I have an issue with whatever's going on in the world, I'll make a bunch of envelopes and I'll have my husband put the names in there and then I'll read them.
mm,
And it allows me to kind of drop my biases a little bit and see what's behind the veil from a bigger perspective. So it's
right.
very refreshing when you use it in a healthy way, for sure.
Interesting. So speaking of a healthy way, when we look at, let's say psyops programs that we know our government used to do, you know,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts about those programs with people using remote viewing as spy work?
Well, okay, who am I to judge? Good for them. At least they're figuring it out. And but it's again, it's the wizard, not the wand. How are you going to show up with that gift, and they get to choose, and it's their path, and it's a consequence that they get to experience later. And I don't personally enjoy it. I've had those circles of people come my way and ask me to use my gift in that way, and I won't do it. I just because I choose not to. It's not who I am and how I want to be with it. But it works for those people.
It's interesting when you say that you had those circles of people come up to you and ask. So, when I was in the military, I once had a this is well before any of the things that I'm currently doing now were going on.
Right.
And I went to this, I guess it was a briefing, a class, and directly after, one of the sergeants or warrant officers came up to me and asked me if I wanted to join the CIA. And and I was like, I don't know if that's something that I wanna do." I thought it would be cool, but I
Right.
something in me I told him I'd think about it. And, the next day, I told him, "No, that's not what I wanna do. I got a feeling that I shouldn't do it." I called my dad, and I let him know what happened. And he said, "Whenever with anything in life, everything that happens to you, you have to somebody has to ask you. You have to give your permission before
Right.
you enter any field." Right, and that could
Oh
have
my god, I love that.
theoretically, that it just would have been a path choice for you, not good or bad, just a life choice. So what are your thoughts about that?
Oh my gosh, that was some awesome advice. I'm absorbing it right now, thanking your dad for that information because well, it's really true, and it's important to have those healthy boundaries and to acknowledge when people ask you for the information as a healer and when they don't, and when you give your yes or not. It's really how we use our chi, it's how we use our
Mhm,
energy in life, and how we give of the prana that we are. Like, do we want to place it over there?
yeah,
And so I think it really butts up to our conditioning. Like, how much do we want to be seen by those people? Or is it going to advance me in a certain way? Like, where does our ego drop into it? So, especially with this gift, you may find, when you have that heart, it's like it, it really requires, for me, it requires some care and some real discernment
yeah,
about who I have in my life and how I share this gift.
for sure. You
Yeah.
mentioned the ego. How does one put aside the ego when it comes to these practices?
You got to work on yourself, man.
Yeah,
You gotta work on yourself, and then when you're doing the practice yourself, it's the ego usually wants to tell you, like we said, it's weird, it's
yeah,
crazy. Oh, no, 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 this can't be right. And but the beauty of this is, where we're going is a really balanced state between the yin and the yang energy.
mhm,
And the yang is about the experience. And
mhm,
so it's not so much about hitting the target. My kids are in archery. It's not so much about getting that bullseye. It is, right? But
yeah,
what about the form?
mhm,
Because in archery, you got so many people that could hit the bullseye, but they get really rated on, was their form well? Was
right,
it correct? And so where are you coming from? Because that's the lens in which you will share the gift. And if you do it, experience may tell you, if you choose to use it in a certain way, the experience might say, whoop, maybe I shouldn't have done it that way. You'll
yeah,
find out, and then you'll have an opportunity to maybe choose another path. But always just listen to the heart instead of that mind. And it's
mhm,
all about self-realization, so you'll find yourself along the way.
for sure. You said that we're headed in direction of balance. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. It's so many people notice and speak of the divine feminine
Mhm,
rising, and I don't really care to use those words because the words are so loaded. And so instead I speak about the essence or the quality of what that means, because we all have the yin and the yang energy, that masculine and the feminine within us, and the masculine is needed. I mean, this whole bashing of the masculine, I mean, I'm a woman, and I'm telling you, it's we're downing these pieces of ourself. And so it's all of them live on a spectrum. One is not better necessarily than the other, but there is a little bit of, high frequency and low frequency
right,
on both. And so as that energy balances out, can we act after we've paused and received and experienced heart driven information, and then we act.
Mhm,
So it's including that pause, that mystery before we act, as opposed to just act, act, act. And it doesn't matter what gender you are, everybody's just going, going, going.
mhm.
And it's not working. It's not. People have been more sick, more sad,
Yeah.
more lost, and it's just the going without the heart first is really tricky. So we're all being invited back to just coming home to ourself and listening from within.
Oh, I love that. I usually tell people that, our existence, our reality is more like a pendulum swing. So, at one point, we were at the higher end of the matriarchy, and it was all
Yes.
about the women of the society.
Yes.
And, women were really the leaders. And
Yep.
for past few thousand years, we swung to the other side, and it's all about the patriarchy, and men were the leaders, and now we're slowly that pendulum I have a pendulum beside me somewhere, but slowly
Oh,
the
right.
pendulum is, like, slowing down, and we're starting to reach
Yeah.
towards the middle, so I 100% agree with you when we talk about feminine and masculine energy. Those are charged words, but I
Chart.
think
Yeah.
that it slowly, like you said, come into balance, coming into fruition of where we should be, quote unquote, should be as a, society, 'cause we're
Right.
supposed to be, right?
Right. 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 Well, we could feel it. We could feel the cries of "Uncle, this is too much. It's not
Yeah.
working." And so nature is inviting us back little by little. We could totally feel it. And by the way, I was in Xi'an, China when I was studying, and in Xi'an, there's an old archaeological find of a matriarchal society there.
Oh,
And
wow.
Xi'an is spelled Xian. And I can never remember the name of it. I have pictures of it, but it was very much the old matriarchal society that they saw.
Mhm. Yeah, when I started doing my own research with, really ancient cultures, you truly do find that a lot of the priests were priestesses. And, they were the healers, and it's not to say that they were over the men would be kind of a misnomer. It's
Right.
more so there wasn't this whole division to begin with,
Division.
you
Right.
know? So that you had your women who were the healers, and they were the intuitive individuals who thought things through, but then it was the man's job to go through and, bring forth into action the thoughts of the feminine energy, you know?
They owned what they brought,
Yeah.
and it was they were all in relationship,
Mhm.
in relativity with one another, and they saw the power in who they were, what they brought in the whole picture. It wasn't just a decision that one looks better than the other. They settled in with who they were and the energy that they were given. I get
Right.
it. I get it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I definitely feel like that's and when you say going back to or becoming into balance, I feel that we were in balance, came out of
Right.
balance, and now we're going
Yes.
back. But I also, from that, perspective, will eventually fall out of balance again, but that's just the nature of the universe.
It
Chaos
is.
and order.
Right. Right. It's like yoga. This is what I say, like with yoga too. I used to teach yoga is that, if you go to yoga class and you finally like get that pose down, like the back
Mhm.
bend or something, for me, which is always the killer. You don't do the back bend, you're like, okay, I did it. And then every time you go to yoga, you never do it again.
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna keep doing it, breathing more into it, going further, breathing more into it, going further. Some days maybe not so good. Some
Mhm.
days you go farther. But it's like, you never stop. There's
Yeah.
always a new edge, right? Like
Right.
that's
Yeah, there's always something
forever.
more, there's always another level, and then when you go
Right.
up a level, quote, unquote, "up a level," it always seemed like the previous level was worse.
Oh my
Really
gosh,
what it
right? Yeah.
is.
Right.
I like to look at our lives as more of a graph trending upwards instead of to go this way, going
I
upwards.
love it. Right.
Instead and it's not necessarily just stagnant, it's not a sine wave, we're constantly moving up, but anyway, I don't wanna take up too much more of your time.
Oh, are you kidding? That was so much that's so much fun. I love
Oh,
hanging
we
out
can
with you
keep
during
going, I
student.
have
Yeah,
no problem. Like, I
we
love
could.
talk, one thing that I did want to ask was you were talking a lot about Tai Chi, Qigong, and yoga, these and prana specifically. these different words that kind of mean the same thing as far as energy and the
Right.
movement of energy throughout the body. Can you talk a little bit about each one individually and how they kind of relate to each other?
Sure. Well, Tai Chi and Qigong are, I'm not a specialist at this, but they are all about opening up, and even yoga for that matter. It's all about opening up energetic centers. Like when we do them, we imagine, okay, this is going to work the abs, it's going to work the upper body, but they were designed to activate the meridians, Tai Chi and
Right.
Qigong, right? And then yoga, the chakra points, right? And
Mm,
all these different energetic openings, the mula bandha, like all these different
yeah.
energy points in our body. These were created to prepare, especially yoga, for meditation. It was not necessarily just to kind of work out or to stretch or for body wellness, but for meditation. And then, of course, the side piece is that, funny, like yoga ends with shavasana, corpse
Mhm,
pose, like you've died to yourself because you've gone past the edges that you were when you first came in. You're
mm,
resetting your nervous system with the ujjayi breath.
mm,
So you're bringing yourself to an edge where the body gets into panic and fear mode. And that physical panic and fear mode may very well match some emotional trauma you've been through. So when you
mm,
get to that edge and then you breathe into it, you're inviting the nervous system then to be with it in a relaxed, in a rest sort of way. And
mm,
when you do, that trauma releases. And the same thing with Qigong or Tai Chi, it opens up the meridians so there are no blocks. And
yeah.
there are Tai Chi and Qigong practices that people come out, they heal cancer, they heal illnesses
Mhm,
because everything is energy first. Again, this has been around for thousands of years. The somatic mind body experience, I love people
yeah.
are saying the word a lot now,
Mhm,
been here for thousands of years. And it's really a tried and true way for us to meet our bodies on a real whole level. So healing.
I love that. I love getting connected with your body and getting connected with your energy sources. So when you are doing I think more people are more familiar with yoga, so we'll go that route.
Right.
So when we're practicing yoga and we're doing these different stances, different poses, what does that have to do with the kundalini rising?
I love it. Well, when you do these stances and the poses, again, like when we first start with yoga, um, when you're doing the routine, the ancient routines, or when you learn how to do it properly, you start by opening up the lower chakras, and that's
Mhm,
the base where that kundalini begins from, right? That first chakra area. And
mhm,
so when we start moving in this way, what you're doing is you're slowly releasing the gaps by breathing. The breath work is the most important, not the pose, but breathing into those spaces. And
mm,
so when you do that, Kundalini is like, "Oh, okay, she's a little more open there. He's a little more open there." And then it comes all the way up. And then when you're done, like you're finally doing back bends, heart openers, maybe
mhm,
some twists, maybe you do, the legs come up over the head, opens this chakra, gets this energy going. So it's all about facilitating that rise of our empowerment within, our ability to hear spirit, the nervous system settling so
mhm,
it can sense more because we're all an instrument. So this is about tuning the instrument,
yeah,
really being capable of hearing. That means the trauma needs to move out to be able to hear
mm.
it.
What would you say to someone who is physically incapable of doing yoga but still wants to have these experiences?
If they're physically incapable, there's the breath work can do this for you. Like if you really intend on where you want your breath to go, and including that with your mind, like letting your mind and your breath imagine that you're doing those routines. And also, if you can, Thai massage. Thai massage is actually dubbed lazy man's yoga, which I think is hilarious. But, even if you do yoga, Thai massage is so important as well
Mhm,
because when you're laying down receiving, your muscles aren't activating to get you into the pose. And
mhm,
I suggest everybody find a practitioner that's willing to do the breath work with you. You're
yeah,
fully clothed in Thai massage and say, "Hey, could you tell me to take a big breath in? And then on the exhale, you push me into that pose." And when they do that, you have done a yoga practice. So you could either do it by way of breath work on your own, if you can't physically do it, or have somebody move your body around to get that going for you. But yeah,
Wow. So when before I get there, we were talking about acupuncture earlier and how basically the needles go in to help to realign those meridians with our which are the energy channels. Would that be another avenue that someone could use to help to let's say awaken their different energy centers?
absolutely, without a doubt. That is exactly what that is. That, yes, 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 yes. That's it for sure. Yep.
Yeah, I've had a few people I've talked to about yoga, and a lot of my coworkers are a little older, and I say older as in they're older than me, you know? They're,
Right.
most of them are in their 50s and 60s.
They're
So,
so they're
and
my age. Okay, we won't talk about it. But go
are
ahead.
you in your 50s? Get out of here.
I'm 50. I'm 56 years old. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, wow. I would have never guessed. But, yeah, so a lot of them talk about not being able to, physically do the stances in yoga. One of my coworkers, I love her, she's so great. She's like, "Well, I do chair yoga." I was like, "This is
Oh,
really cool."
awesome.
Yeah, it is really awesome. It's really amazing. But I find that, um, a lot of my coworkers, the reason why I brought up, them being in their 50s and 60s is that when I start talking about these different modalities, it seems like they're more interested, nowadays. Do you
Yes.
think there's some correlation with how should I ask this? Like, is there some correlation with, let's say, life experiences as you grow older that kind of makes you more open to alternative health?
That's a great question. I would say yes, why not? I feel like, we're conditioned to kind of have that chase, the get when we're younger. And
Mm,
then after we've gotten it all and we realize, wait, I still feel the same way, we kind of soften to like, oh, like you said earlier, let me get to the root of it. Maybe not constantly try to put a band-aid or something external to fix my issue because it's only temporary.
mhm,
And so, that kind of wisdom from that experience lets you know that, wait, not that we waste time. I feel like oftentimes we have to go through those experiences. Like we really think something's going to heal us. And nope, didn't work. Then we really think that's going to heal us. Nope, didn't work. And
mm,
we just keep going. And finally, we're like, okay, you know what? I got to go inward.
yeah,
I got to go in. And a lot of that is just conditioning that is exhausting itself,
mhm,
And another thing they could use too is that Tai Chi and Qi Gong
yeah,
if they can't do yoga, because there is something about, this is the densest part of our energetic field.
mhm,
And so even when we get the energy going, having someone help us to kind of move in other directions outside of our usual movement
yeah,
helps to create new neural pathways that supports our spiritual growth.
mm,
Because I see so many people, they have this huge spiritual growth, but then they don't take it to the body.
yeah,
And the body's like a tight shoe and wants to take you right back in. Like the foot feels good after the weekend, and then
yeah.
and then you're like, oh my God, I gotta put it back in on Monday, and then you gotta cram it back in there. So
You talk a lot about the conditioning in our society. Where, if you could think of a time or reason, at what point in our history did we start becoming so rigid and not being able to accept the spiritual aspects of things? Because it wasn't always that way.
oh my gosh. I feel like you could look back in history and see how it builds. I feel like uh, when I sense into that intuitively, when we were more taken away from nature, when
Mm,
we were really trying to find our ways, perhaps in building communities and societies, and where we wanted leadership and we needed to do it fast. Because
mm,
if you look at you know, the old tribe ways, the people that were leaders, and it wasn't always fabulous, but for the most part, the people that were leaders, they had to do vision quests
yeah,
before they had to do ceremony, they had to discover themselves. So their wisdom came from experience and
mm,
also self growth. It wasn't just something to be learned in a book. And I know there's a place for that, but that
yeah,
doesn't speak to the heart. Intellect is
mhm,
not wisdom, and wisdom includes, experience and it includes the other and includes compassion. So perhaps, you could take a look back historically, and it was when we stopped being in relationship to the earth and
Mm.
how everything is has a place. Everything.
Wow, could you imagine if we demanded all of our leaders had to go do a vision quest before they took power?
That would be awesome.
That would be great, honestly.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
I feel like that'd be so amazing. You talk
Yep.
a lot about, the mind, intellect, and then the heart. So when we talk about the mind-body connection, how important is that connection, and how can you strengthen the connection between your mind and your heart?
I love that. It is the most important connection. And I used to tell my students when I was teaching massage years ago, that go to a coffee house or whatever, a little restaurant, and then just observe people and see
Mm,
how they walk, and then go home and do it.
mm,
And if they're walking like this, close your eyes. What does that feel like? Because again, the body is the keeper of the spirit, the mental, and the emotional bodies.
yeah,
This body is the holograph, the densest holograph of all those. So the
mm,
importance is huge. And often call the mind the great escape. You think about it like, here's our body, we're living in it, and here's like a little hatch that we like go hide up in for a while. It's important, but when getting into that body is really the truest way that we could heal many of the ailments we have in our life,
mm,
many of the dynamics. So, how can you do it? It's super simple, which doesn't mean it's easy. Believe me, some people look at it and they're like, "No, it's not going to work. It needs to be harder than that." But if you wake up every day and you're like, "Okay, I'm going to listen to my body, my physical body, my emotional body, my mind, and my spirit. I'm going to pay attention to all four of those things. I call your four bodies are your babies all day long. So, am I thirsty right now? Am I sad? I don't want to go with this person. I told them I would go, and every time I go, they're really toxic.
mhm,
If that was your child, would you force them to go if they didn't want to go? No. Why do we do it? So, when we feel that and we discover it, we could say, what if I did just tell them no? Sure, it's
mm,
going to shake things up, but that's the truth
mm,
that we've been saying we want.
mm,
Now we're actually listening to the body and doing it.
right.
So really just listening to every truth that comes out of you all day long, and following through with what it needs.
So what you're saying is in order to listen to those truths, we first have to be able to ask ourselves those questions, right? To question
Yes.
our own habits.
Habits. Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
I oftentimes tell people, when you're exercising, and you can usually tell just before you're about to pull a muscle. You can usually tell just before you're about to hurt yourself, and that's when you need to stop. And so before getting that close to injury and danger, there are
Right.
other signs of your body letting you know that, okay, this might not be the direction that you need to go into.
Yeah.
No. And same thing happens, especially when you could be doing something mundane in your life, pick up a box and say, "Okay, that didn't feel right for me." But you can do the
Right.
same thing with a relationship. You can pick up a
Oh
new
gosh. Yeah.
relationship and say that, "No, that one doesn't feel right." Maybe you need to feel it out a little bit longer, and that's okay too.
It's so true, and it's funny because I even get that to this day, and I wonder if you do as well. Like when I'm doing readings, I'll hear something, I'm like, "No, no, 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 no," and then they'll say it, and I'm like, "Dang, I should have said that," because it took me right there. So
Yeah.
we're always growing on that edge of trust. It's just really of trusting it, and where I see that people get sometimes scared of trusting it is
Yeah.
that they imagine that if they trust that message, it's going to deliver them to something easy or wonderful immediately. But if it doesn't, they're like, see, I shouldn't have listened to that. It just got me in trouble. I'm like, well, maybe that trouble was the makeover that you're needing. Like, for
Mhm.
instance, when you're redoing your kitchen, it's going to look like a total mess before it looks really good. So maybe it's leading you right in the direction that you need to go in.
Ooh, that's definitely back to the whole chaos and order thing. But
Yes, and more about yeah.
how do we release ourselves from having expectations of an outcome?
You know, I feel like the way we release ourselves is just through practice.
Mm,
And I feel like a majority of the people are getting they're on the brink of surrender. They're like, "You know what? It's I'm waiting, waiting, waiting for this amazing end result and somebody keeps moving the bullseye, right?" And so I know in my clients they're exhausted by that. So the
yeah.
difference is again that yin is the unknown.
Mhm,
And so we're getting so tired of it. It's like we're realizing, "Oh my gosh, I think I have to trust
yeah.
the unknown because it feels more true than this known over here." And so it's really again the experience. It's the
Yeah.
experience, not the intellect. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but for me, what really started to help me out was to be excited about the unknown. So
Yes. Oh, that's the best. That's the best way to be to be excited about the unknown. Yeah.
yeah, because it can I mean, is it in the beginning, is it scary? Sure. But really, all the best things in life kinda happen as a surprise. I came across something
Oh,
the other day, and, I wrote it down. What did it say? Hold on, I actually I did write
yeah.
it
I want to hear it.
down.
I'd love to hear it.
And, basically, what he was saying is look at me stalling for time while I try to find it.
I love it. No, these are little channels that are so important, right?
Right. Oh, it says that, everything that happens in your life is a gift, and if you treat it that way, you'll spend your entire life unwrapping presents. And
Oh
I
my
just
God.
thought that it spoke to me so well because a gift, you don't really know what's inside of that box. It can be covered in the ugliest wrapping paper, but inside of it could be pure gold. You know?
You know what? Isn't that the truth? I love that. That is so it is that's when we could use the mind, right? The
Mm,
mind doesn't have to take us there. The unknown experience could take us there. But if you have like a saying like that, something to, like you said, like have fun with that unknown, that is what that mind is used for, is to help us move forward in those hardships. That was really beautiful. I love that.
right, thank you. I don't actually where did I hear that from? I think it's from I don't wanna butcher the guy's name. Daryl something. Yeah, I know it's a gentleman, he lives in California, and he
Right.
travels a entity, named Bashar. One of the guys I like to follow. But I just enjoy having those types of, sayings and affirmations in my life. I think it's very important to
Ah,
wake up every morning and go to bed with gratitude and
mm,
positivity. And it doesn't have to be something so major as that. You know, it could be, uh,
right.
grateful I'm very grateful to have a warm bed to sleep in because that
Oh,
wasn't always the case.
I was right there with you. It wasn't always the case,
Mhm.
right? I
Yeah.
feel you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty great, and it can be kinda challenging, I know, at times for people to find, let's say, the light at the end of the tunnel or, the flame
Right.
in the darkness, but another old saying that I really like is, "The brightest flame shines in the darkest of night." You can
Oh,
always see a light no matter how far away it is. So, I
you
collect
know
these
what?
little
I
things.
love that. No, I collect those things. You know, another one that you're reminding me of now is that it's always darkest before the dawn,
It is
right?
always darkest before the dawn. There's also, while there's a calm before the storm always produces the best flowers.
Oh, see, now it's and it is. Those are the things you're reprogramming. You're reprogramming and your nervous system, and you're helping yourself. I think it's perfect. It's good food. It's
It is,
you're
it is.
taking it
Food for
in.
the soul.
Yes, it is food for the soul. It's nourishment, man.
For sure. Well, we'll definitely have to have you back on because there's something that I wanted to get into about, 5D consciousness, unless you wanna talk about it really
Fun.
quickly.
Yeah. Uh-oh. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, so we're already pushing an hour. So,
Isn't
yeah,
it fun
people
that we could like have these conversations? There was a point in time when I was doing this stuff that I would like pray for people like you to come into my life because everybody thought I was crazy, and maybe I still am, but
Hey,
I like it.
nothing
I
wrong with
like
being
it.
a little crazy, right?
I love it. What is crazy anyway? Who
What is
says?
crazy? So, okay, Imma say this last thing and I'll let you go.
Okay.
So, I was talking to someone about being crazy, and I was like, "I embrace being crazy, and here's why." Because in order to conceive an idea to the point that you believe it, that you can bring it into reality, regardless of what that idea is, you have to be crazy to do it. So any person who's ever invented anything was crazy, because you have to first conceive an idea that doesn't exist, and then believe that you can bring it from your thoughts into physical reality.
You are speaking to this is the signature of this Aquarian age. And you know what? I love it because and you have to have that courage to go outside of conditioning. And as
Mhm.
much as people say they want to change, they're like, no, that's too crazy. But like you said, they have to. They're the ones that bring us forward, right?
Exactly,
I
exactly. How else
love
can we
that.
progress?
Oh, Dexter, that was so awesome, man. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you for coming on. I truly, truly enjoy these conversations.
Oh, me too. Me
And I wanna
too.
thank you, everybody, for listening. If you stay for the whole episode, we truly do appreciate you, and check us out later.
Take care.
Bye.